So, are you over 40 but under 120 years old and want to make your own YouTube channel? I strongly encourage that idea. I want to be more than just a cheerleader because there's an awful lot of snakes and mosquitoes and bumps in the road. Bump number one, technology. I have a PhD and a law degree. I used to practice years ago before I became a social scientist. And I suck at technology. Everybody, you can't be excellent at everything. So I'm convinced that a sixth grader would probably have a better grasp of technology and filming and the internet than I do, because I did not grow up with the internet. And so, so if you're struggling with technology, certainly that's part and parcel of the course. So welcome to my experience. You know, the challenge is that there is nobody there with you. And so it's probably just a minor adjustment that will take seconds to do, but it will take hours sometimes to find. There are YouTube videos out there that you can watch, that I've watched, thousands of them, thousands of hours, and they can be entertaining. Some of them are very good, some of them are very bad. And some of them, one of the things that make it very bad if you're over 40 is they talk 1,000 miles per hour. And so the thing is that I have to slow it down on the settings to be able to watch the video if I decide to do so. And to the point that, there's this one video that I had to slow down to 25% of its actual speed because it was recorded so quickly. No wonder, kids nowadays have trouble concentrating. So then, of course, it sounds like the person talking is drunk. So that can be its own amusement. So take that into consideration. Bump number two, over-consuming YouTube videos. Now this is one of the flip sides. I suggested that you watch YouTube videos, but at the same time, you could fall into a rabbit hole of consuming videos instead of actually creating. And so you could get sucked into this rabbit hole of watching all these videos, and that leads to bump number 3 in the road. So bump 3 in the road is this idea that you're not good enough, or that you don't know enough, or that you don't film enough to be an expert. And so this creates this idea of self-doubt, because you watch all these videos, and man, a lot of these videos are pretty good, maybe you start out a video and it looks like it's something from a hostage video. And so, but you just have to do it and improve over time. So what happens is that it's just this dual-edged sword, is you want to watch YouTube videos, but at the same time, you don't want to just get obsessed with watching videos and then never actually creating videos, because it's only through these creating videos do you make those mistakes and do you learn. And oh yes, you'll make mistakes. Which brings me to the next bump, and that is suffering. You'll be frustrated, you'll be angry, and you'll with technology and a variety of things, and you will suffer. Now the thing is that's why it's so important to have a passion for something. The true test of a passion is suffering, and that is that if you are willing to suffer about something, then that's going to be something that you're passionate about. And you will suffer because, you'll put together, you'll have all of this planning, the Normandy invasion took less planning, and you get the lighting right, and then you struggle with the picture, then the height of the camera, then the sound, and you get everything right, and then your battery dies. Or then you go through this wonderful video, and then the sound doesn't work. That's going to happen, but then you'll eventually figure out what your mistakes are. And my suggestion is that to make notes, take notes, type them up so that you can edit them and perfect them, and just have a sheet that can be kind of a checklist so that you don't to remind yourself to not make those same mistakes. Another bump is this idea of niching down. YouTube is a search engine. And so the more specific, the better for a search engine, to help people get what they want. But then do you find it easy to specify, to put yourself in a box about who you are and what your channel is about? Well, that's, I guess, ultimately the end goal. If your channel was devoted to silly cat videos, that's pretty easy to articulate in an elevator, like an elevator pitch. But what if it's a little bit more complex? Let's say that you have an interest in Shakespearean literature. Then that's great, and you should pursue that. What if you have a lot of interest? Where do you start first? Well, that's the idea, essentially, is that you should pick one of those passions, one of those things you're going to suffer for, and that you really care about, and go with that. And it may turn out that may fizzle out, and then just go to the next passion. So don't necessarily feel like you're giving up on something. You're just putting it to the side. Another bump in the road is you're probably going to be so frustrated that you're going to think you're going to want to quit. I mean, you create this video, you put it through all this time and effort, you do the best that you can, and it gets 1 or 2 views. And yet there's another video that's made by an 8-year-old who talks about toys, and it's getting 1 million views. So just life is not fair, and probably we could say that YouTube is probably not fair either. So that can be a frustrating experience. Another bump in the road, isolation. Because, you could get possibly coaching, but that coach is not actually there physically with you, which is the challenge. You want to be able to articulate what is the problem here, or what is this setting that I need, and the challenge is finding it. Now, the setting itself takes seconds, but finding out where that setting is and what that setting is to improve the problem can be a challenge. And so when you're isolated, when you're by yourself, that can be problematic. And if you're over 40, there's the tendency to be isolated because it's in a different context. As you get older, it becomes difficult because you've got family and relationships, and it's a different situation than when you were much younger. And so as you get older, there's we have loneliness in America, and as you get older, it becomes all the more difficult to be able to find friends and maintain friends that have a particular interest. So if you can find a friend that has this particular interest, it need not be in your genre or your niche area, but if you can find somebody that is into photography and video and understands it and enjoys it, it's just kind of like playing tennis. Play with somebody that's as least as good as you. And so you can both learn from each other. Because ultimately, your friends and family are not going to share your passion. I mean, if they are, that's great, but oftentimes they'll look at you funny because of what you're doing. Generally speaking, you don't want to share your videos with your spouse, because the spouse will probably be critical. And not necessarily that's a problem, but if your spouse is not your audience, your targeted audience, that would be a bad idea. And the thing is that that's the challenge about sharing videos with family and friends. Unless they are your audience, that's not a good idea, because those people look at your videos and they'll watch them for like 10 seconds and then shut them off, and that sends a message to the algorithm that these videos suck. They may, but they may not. And so by sharing it with somebody that's not your targeted audience can be problematic. So why even bother? Why even bother creating a YouTube channel and doing videos? Because you need creativity in your life. You need to make bad art. And that's how we get the art to be better. Don't compare yourself to others, but do the best that you can about the videos that you make. Bad art is a good idea. I mean, realize that we had to create the VHS before we created the DVD. So one thing has to go to another, and it's a growth, and that's what this is about. Because YouTube is not a race, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So you just have to have patience over time to do these things. Now the benefit is that you get to create and you get to express yourself. Ethan Hawke, and I'll put a link in the video description, had this wonderful TED Talk about creativity and how valuable it is to us as humans and to be alive. So with videos, you get to learn a variety of things. You get to learn how to edit. You can learn how to write. You know how to script. You know how to make thumbnails. All of these things can be very creative processes. And it's that process that's very helpful. And despite all of those frustrations, you'll have fun doing it. And that's really important. But the most significant reason to start a YouTube channel is because you are alive. Walt Whitman talked about this idea in a poem of his that, what is the purpose? Why are we even here? But you get to contribute a verse. So that's what you need to do. Be creative. Create some bad art and contribute a verse or two. Good luck.